I had been a difficult child. My dad always told me that I got my stubbornness from my mum, but I know him even better now, and I suspect I got it from them both. The diagnosis of ADHD at age 10 just solidified what my dad had always assumed. And then we lost Mum. And moved. Then it was just Dad and I against the universe. And that's what he always said. It was one of those funny things that Dad was always saying. That was how he dealt with everything. He could turn anything into a smile. But not obnoxiously. He wasn't one of these dad joke types. He just had a way of breaking the tension with humour. So Dad and I against the universe became our bond. Danny Conkanon's mum, the black-haired divorcee who didn't seem to have any tops that fit her appropriately, asked him once, "Why not against the world?" And Dad explained that the world isn't that scary, but the universe is filled with dangerous things, like space squirrels. And Dad and I would crack up and Danny smiled, and his mum just looked confused the way all the other single mums looked as my dad just overlooked their flirting. Squirrels were his favourite joke. There was this movie once when I was a kid that had talking dogs, and they would always get distracted when someone yelled, "Squirrel!" And it became our joke. That had been shortly after Mum. And the move. Anyway, squirrels found their way into most of our in-jokes. They even made onto the list. See, Dad had gotten a pretty late official diagnosis of ADHD, so he understood a lot of what it felt like to be inside my head. And he tried to teach me about controlling my emotions, and how to approach the world. Simple things like always put your wallet and keys in the same place when you get home, so you can find them again later. And more complex things went on the list. Essentially, it was like a rhyming poem that you recite to memorize your multiplication tables or the state capitals. Except it didn't rhyme. Always say please and thank you. Always choose kindness. Listen and reason, don't yell and shout. Always ask before getting food. That one got added when I was 14, and Dad said I was eating him out of house, and home, and squirrels. Hold the door for everyone, especially women. Honestly, represent yourself. Always put in reasonable effort. The list changed over time. It started as one of those things we do at bedtime to wind down the day, and as I got older, it became a dinner-time review of the day. And it always ended with our joke. And if a squirrel ever says hi and asks your name, call Dad first. As I got older and moved out and moved on in life, the list became a smaller and smaller part of our routine, something he'd bring up maybe every couple of months. Or if I was having a rough time at school or work or struggling with a decision, he'd walk through the list again. It became this guiding creed in my life. As a young adult, I was really beginning to appreciate it. And our usual joke at the end never failed to make me smile. Until I got home late one afternoon, and I was frazzled. My boss had been an extra spicy a-hole that day. I had also been playing phone tag with my dad. I really wanted to talk to him to see how the routine medical tests that were nothing to worry about had turned out. I dropped my stuff and walked into my kitchen and frowned. I didn't remember opening my kitchen windows, but I must have. And sitting on my kitchen counter was the largest squirrel I had ever seen. It was just sitting there, its tail all puffy, looking like it was waiting for me. "Hi, what's your name?" It spoke. On the other side of town, Marvin Bartlett pulled his eyes away from the medical paperwork spread out on the table in front of him and looked at his phone as it rang and displayed his son's name. He sighed. He'd been dodging his son's calls. He hated doing that, but he just needed more time before talking to him. "Hey, bud. Sorry, I missed your call up." His son interrupted him. "Dad, do you remember that joke at the end of the list?" Marvin stood up, his chair falling over behind him, his blood running cold. Yes. Did you give him your name? His son sounded unsure, and a little embarrassed. No. I mean, I was going to, but... the list. Marvin started to breathe a little easier. Okay, you did good, bud. Now, listen to me carefully. Reach your left arm out with your palm down, and say, I am a registered citizen of the Turian Empire. State your imperative. His son sounded confused, but calm. He heard his son repeat the command phrase and breathed out deeply as he heard the answer. He says he's searching for the buried nut. Authorization code Alpha Sigma 4? Marvin was already in motion, grabbing his go bag. He checked that his sidearm had a full power cell charge. Okay, bud, you're doing great. Tell him Grey Paw Delta Delta 72 is en route, ETA 22 minutes. Marvin was sprinting out to his car, as he heard his son repeating the code phrase. Okay, son. Now I want you to go to your room, grab a bag and throw some clothes in it. And stay there till I get there. I'm on my way. Dad, what's going on? It's gonna be fine, son. I'll explain soon. Remember, it's you and I against the universe.